and nothing too different and fabulous, but we're going to try and cover 2 chapters tonight. Most of the emphasis is on chapter 5, and the thing is we got 16 chapters and really about 14 weeks to get it done, so we have to double up a little bit, and usually we have trouble with 1 chapter a night. So, but tonight our class is on the socio-culture diversity, which means really kind of the whole idea of everything from cultural differences to gender differences, and how sometimes these are done intentionally or unintentionally. And as the teachers, you know, we can look at things that we, as far as us recognizing some of these things, because maybe they've been done to us. People have said things, or the way you were treated, that you recognize that they weren't looking at you the same way as somebody else. But what we want to look at tonight is also shifting it from I'm the one who's different to I'm the one who has to make sure I don't treat my students differently. And part of that difference does include kind of the socioeconomic status piece, which is you know, whether or not people have a lot of money or not. And so it's not based on what your background is or what your ethnicity is, but whether or not how much money your family has. And so a couple different ways of looking at tonight is you may recognize some of these things, but from experiencing them, but thinking about recognizing them now and trying to figure out ways to not let it happen in your classrooms as when you're teachers. But definitely, you know, as we're going along, if you recognize some of these things, or you've either experienced them or you're seeing them, some of you are in schools, that if you're recognizing that you see some of this happening, that speak up and tell us, you know, what you've seen or heard. I don't want to turn it into like a grouching session or anything like that, but the reality is this stuff is happening, you know, and it continues to happen because everybody's human and everybody comes from different backgrounds and different places and the way people talk. And so sometimes we carry that with us, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. So hopefully you got to look at the chapter a bit and saw some of that in the chapter. So let's start with our open notes, since that's kind of our biggest chunk of stuff we always need to get done, but it kind of drags us through the chapter so that you're familiar with all of it. A little bit better here. Chapter 5. So the chapter itself is split up between kind of the 3 different ways of looking at diversity in your classrooms. If you're looking at the little flow charty thing. And we can also look at the outline on 42 in our books. The areas that we're looking at is cultural identity, which I mentioned, the idea of multicultural education, which we'll look at that a little bit more, and then gender. And that still is happening too. All right, so start at number 1. And I hear a baby, so you might want to put yourself on mute. Got a baby.
Oh, okay.
I don't see a baby, but I hear a baby. Just so that everybody can hear okay.
That's only one baby.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
There's got 3 in here.
Is it a trigger event? So if one starts and Maybe at the end you can bring all three of them out so you can see them all.
Yeah, you could see what it's like. All the little cars and toys.
Times 3. Oh, yeah, be good to see you. Good to see you. All right, so let's get started on 143, culture. And culture refers to the behavior patterns, beliefs, and all other products of a particular group of people that are passed on from generation to generation. And so that might sound familiar, but also think of it beyond the basics, like you might always usually think of it. Have you ever heard people talk about the culture of a certain place where you work, or the culture? And really, it's getting down to using the same definition. It's that idea of a group of people who kind of all think and function and do things the same way. And so there's a culture at a certain business or another place where you might work. There's a certain culture that's either there or is expected of you. And so culture isn't always something like being German or being Native American or being, Mexican American, one of those areas. It can also be more of referring to like the idea of beliefs and the way we function and do things. Psychologists and educators who study culture often are interested in comparing what happens in one culture with what happens in one or more other cultures. Blank involves such comparisons, providing information about the degree to which people are similar and to what degree certain behaviors are specific to certain cultures. What is that?
Cross-cultural studies.
Yep. And it's pretty much just like what it, as it was defined, at looking across multiple cultures to see what are similar and what are different. One way that blank have been described involves individualism and collectivism.
Differences in cultures.
Stephanie, what did you have for that way, or that one? One way that...
Differences in cultures.
Yep, thank you. All right, the next one refers to a set of values that give priority to to personal goals rather than to group goals. So more focused on the individual and the person. What is that called?
Individualism.
Okay, and then on the other hand, this one consists of a set of values that's supported by a group. What's that?
Collectivism.
Yep. All right, good. In addition to examining whether cultures are individualistic or collectivistic, so just look at the base word. Another important blank involves how children and adolescents spend their time. What's that one?
Is it cross-cultural?
Cross-cultural comparison. Okay. All right, so the next section, socioeconomic status. So this comes down to, I guess it's defined for us right away, but blank refers to the grouping of people with similar occupational, educational, and economic characteristics. So meaning we're alike around the jobs we do, the education that we have, and the economic, or what we kind of make and take home. What is that referring to?
Socioeconomic status.
Yep, and that's a big one, a term that's good to remember, SES. And often the way you'll hear it is like low SES, meaning that there is low income, that they don't have a lot of money. And that's often the term that's used with like the free lunch program in schools. They'll say for low SES students. And so that is a good term to remember what SES stands for. It's really about how much money you make, or the level of money. Socioeconomic status implies certain inequalities, so things that aren't equal. Poverty is demarcated along what?
Educational lines.
Yeah, so poverty is marked off along educational lines. So think about that. So anytime that like you can gain education like you are is making a chance that you are more than likely going to have a better SES as you grow older. And that's why education and that being able to provide and be a great teacher to your kids is so important, because if we don't do our jobs really well and they don't leave our classrooms doing all the basic skills that people need to survive just in general, like being able to manage your budgets, go to jobs, keep their jobs, things like that, because they are able to read and write and they can do basic math things well. If we don't do a good job with that, then that can make it very difficult for our students in their future to be able to get good jobs and or keep them once they have them if they aren't well educated. So our job is pretty darn important. In 2014, for adults 25 years and older, 29% of those with no high school diploma, 14% with a high school diploma but no college, and 10% with some college, no degree, and 5% with a bachelor's degree or higher lived in poverty in the United States. So if you look at all of those added up, 29% of those with no high school diploma. So that's probably where you're going to fall, is living in poverty. There's 29% of those with no high school diploma. And so that's why it's really important to get our kids all the way through. But it's not just about getting them through, because it's nice that they might have a diploma, but if they still can't read and understand, comprehend, and they can't take care of, doing basic math and managing their money, then we haven't done them a lot of favors. So it's not just getting them through and getting them the diploma, it's keeping them in school and making sure they're learning. And a lot of that falls on us. There's a lot of things happen outside the school, but frankly, when you talk to kids who are not going to high school, it's not because they're saying, oh, I'm staying home because there's nobody to take care of the baby or there's whatever. Usually it's, I'm bored, I hate being there. There's stuff going on at the school. It's rarely anything to do with the school. It's more about the school than it is about personal issues. And so that again falls on us, that, we all play a role along the way. And so we need to make sure we're doing our share, because we're not responsible for the whole thing, but we've got our part of the journey and we need to make sure we do it well, because those are some awful statistics to look at. And then the third bullet says children in poverty. Somebody's got some music or TV on or something. Maybe you want to mute yours too. So fight that a little bit. But children in poverty often face problems at home and at school that what? For those that have microphones on, or pop them on.
Promised our learning.
Yep, that compromise their learning. So that compromise means to, doesn't allow for it to happen the way it should. The schools that children from impoverished backgrounds attend often have what?
Fewer resources.
Than schools in higher income neighborhoods. So, kind of like a lot of our schools where they have impoverished backgrounds, that means our schools usually have fewer resources as well, compared to, say, some of the schools in Rapid City that are, located in the better parts of the city. C, ethnicity, the third part of what we're looking at today is blank refers to a shared pattern of characteristics such as cultural heritage, nationality, race, religion, and language. What is that?
Ethnicity.
Ethnicity.
Great. Relatively high rates of minority immigration have contributed to the growth in the proportion of what in the U.S. population?
Ethnic minorities.
Yep. So minority immigration. That should kind of make sense with some of the actions in our country these days. Blank is still a reality for children of color in the United States. What is that?
Educational segregation.
Yep. And prejudice is an unjustified negative attitude toward an individual because of the individual's membership in the group. The group toward which the prejudice is directed might be defined by ethnicity, sex, age, or virtually any other detectable difference. So prejudice is comes in all sorts of shapes and sizes. The last black bullet, blank, produced both prejudicial and legitimate differences among various ethnic groups. What is that phrase?
So historical, economic, and social experience.
Yep. And the clear bullet, recognizing and respecting these differences is an important aspect of getting along in a diverse multicultural world. Respecting. Okay. D, second language learning and bilingual education. And for many years, it was claimed that if individuals did not learn a second language prior to puberty, they would never reach native language learners' proficiency in the second language. So it used to be said that if you didn't know whatever the second language was that you were wanting to learn by the time you were like middle grades, middle school, that you would never be able to be proficient at it. But bilingualism, the ability to speak two languages, has a what on children's cognitive development?
Positive effect.
Yeah, and so that's a good thing to think about. The ability to speak two languages actually has a positive effect on children's cognitive development. So that right there is something for our schools to stand on when they're wanting to teach more of the Lakota language in the classrooms, that it can have a positive effect on children's cognitive, their brain, their thinking development. So pretty cool to know that. A current controversy related to bilingualism involves the millions of US children who come from homes in which English is what?
Not the primary language.
Okay, so, and then the clear bullet, English language learners, or ELL, as L's, have been taught in one of two main ways. Either they're taught instruction in English only, or they get dual language, meaning they do bilingual instruction, which the approach involves instruction in their home language and in English. So, and so you will hear people use a couple different terms, like this one is ELL, so it's English language learners. You'll also hear English as a second language, ESLs. And so they are two different things. Sometimes people will run them together or, you know, use them interchangeably, and they're not quite the same thing. But it is dealing with the same thing, where usually the first language is not English. So. Right, section 2, multicultural education, 156. Okay. All right, blank is education that values diversity and includes the perspective of a variety of cultural groups on a regular basis. What is that?
Multicultural education.
Yeah, multicultural education expert who describes what characterizes a multicultural school. Who did they point out?
James Banks.
Yeah. And the school's staff attitudes, beliefs, and actions. The school staff has high expectations for all students and are passionate about helping them learn. So this is what multicultural education should look like, according to James Banks. Second bullet, the curriculum. Multicultural education reforms the course of studies so that students perceive events, concepts, and issues from the diverse views of different ethnic and socioeconomic groups. And so here they're talking that it's not just ethnic groups, but also socioeconomic, which is that SES. So that we look at things from different levels, not just from our level, but we can look at things that maybe people have more money than us. And so we look at it from that perspective sometimes too. And some groups might have less money than us, and we need to look at. Somebody turn off my dog. Sees a squirrel, I'm sure it's something important. The third bullet, instructional materials in these schools. In multicultural school, instructional materials represent the backgrounds and experiences of people from diverse what?
Ethnic and cultural groups.
Okay. The school culture and the hidden curriculum. So this is kind of like what's going on in the school, even if we don't talk about it or teach people about it, the hidden curriculum. The hidden curriculum is the curriculum. Somebody's going in their doghouse in a minute here. The hidden curriculum is the curriculum that is what?
Not explicitly taught.
Meaning you aren't going to walk in and learn about that this is what we should be teaching the kids. Instead, it's just something that we automatically do and we don't really have to talk about it a lot. It's the hidden curriculum. And then the last bullet, the counseling program in these schools. A multicultural schools counseling program guides students from diverse backgrounds toward what?
Active career choices.
Yeah, and they help students take the appropriate courses that enable them to pursue those choices. So hopefully that we're seeing that happen in multicultural schools. This is how each one of those pieces comes together in a school that is multicultural. Part A, empowering students. The term empowerment refers to providing people with intellectual and coping skills to succeed and create a more just world. Banks, the one we were just reading about, suggests that future teachers, that's you guys, can benefit from writing a brief essay about a situation in which they felt marginalized or excluded by another group. Banks emphasize that one should be in a better position to understand the issues of sociocultural diversity after writing such an essay. And so he's basically saying that, like, you guys should be able to write about a time when you felt like you were excluded from a situation for whatever reason. And by doing that, you're going to be in a better position to be able to understand, like, working with your kids in the future. So what can any of you, are any of you willing to, or take a second, just think about time when you've been marginalized for whatever reason in a situation? Anybody think of something? It might take a minute to think about it. Anybody think of one? Trying to think of one too. I had to think specifically of anything, but I know I definitely have recollections of people kind of, you know, where you feel like you don't belong in the group. It's not like, usually it seems like it's happened in like a workshop or a something, you know, not necessarily like with people I work with, but like going somewhere and then, you know, the group kind of, end up in a group and then people kind of, like the word says, marginalize you. They kind of push you, you know, they don't include you very much. And I guess I can recall that happening. And usually it's been because I'm from a small place, you know, from a rural or small town or whatever. And it's sort of like, oh, well, you don't fit in with the rest of us. We come from, you know, large school districts from like Los Angeles or wherever. And, you know, it seems like that's where I've felt marginalized the most, has always been around the fact that you're from like almost like you're from South Dakota, you're from someplace rural, you're from someplace, you know, small towns, you know, we have nothing we can learn from you. So anybody else think of time or situation?
Could that be like, because I work in special education, so sometimes in the school when they have like staff meetings, they don't really include special education. It's just the general ed teachers.
Yeah.
Could that be one?
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah. It's kind of, I guess the feeling would be that one saying about being the redheaded stepchild or something. Have you ever felt like that? Where nobody really cares if you're there or not? Anybody else? Can you think of anything like that? The rest of you have all
I
been.
feel excluded right now because my microphone keeps going off. And I have to keep it off.
You're the redheaded stepchild right now.
Yeah,
Your
that's how I
microphone.
feel.
I'm probably guilty of making somebody feel like that, like in middle school days, but
Hey, my boyfriend was just talking about how you used to be so mean to him, so I believe it.
Eric.
Hmm.
Jeez, I'm not no more.
That Star was so mean to him? Or-
Yeah,
I would terrorize him.
she used to be bullied by him, he said.
Okay.
His
We're not-
sister helped me, so
We're not talking so much bullying in this situation. It's more about exclusion.
but that could relate just because you could bully somebody to not be into your group and exclude them. So
Yep.
mute.
Okay. Well, if you think of something, eventually you can still share it with us a little bit later. Finishing up here on empowering students. It says Banks emphasizes that one should be in a better position to understand the issues of socio-cultural diversity after writing or talking about like something like this. B, culturally relevant teaching. Multicultural education experts stress that effective teachers are aware of and integrate what into the curriculum because it makes teaching more effective.
Culturally relevant teaching.
Yeah, so a lot of this that we're going through in this chapter right now, you'll notice that there's a lot of actual support for culture being included and though in how we teach. And you know, that I think that's pretty cool considering there's been a shift towards more of it being taught in the schools, I'd say within the last 10 years. Way back when I was in the classroom, there was a little bit of culture, but not at all as freely, or it wasn't as encouraged as it is now. You know, even like in the lesson planning document that you guys use in methods classes, to have the cultural part in there. That didn't used to be so much the case. So it's pretty cool. There's been a shift towards it, and also that, you know, you look at this and there's research out there that says that can make teaching more effective to include it. Going on, it says some researchers have found that students from some ethnic groups behave in ways that may make some what more difficult than others.
Educational task.
Yeah. And when students behave in this way, it might be a good strategy to give them opportunities to what? For students who act this way, it might be a good strategy to give them opportunities to do what, rather than always requiring them to perform on a written essay or exam. Find that one. It's opportunities to make presentations rather than always requiring them to perform on a written exam. All right. Going on. Issues-centered education on page 159. In this approach, students are taught to systematically examine issues that involve equity and social justice. Issues-centered education is closely related to moral education. And so that's a term that I'm not super familiar with, moral education, but, you know, makes sense. All right, part D. Is there one of you that's willing to read through and give the answers for part D? Instead of me reading and you guys popping in, one of you just take it and read the answers.
A number of strategies and programs are available to improve relationships among children from different ethnic groups.
Yep, keep going. You can have the whole section.
Oh, geez. Okay. Elliot Aronson developed the concept of the jigsaw classroom, which involves having students from different cultural backgrounds incorporate by doing different parts of a project to reach a common goal. Hold on.
Okay, keep going. Go ahead with the whole thing, Victoria, if you would.
Okay. Contact by itself does not always improve relationships. Sharing personal information frequently produces this discovery. People from different backgrounds share many of the.
And if you don't have it, if somebody else has it.
I wasn't able to put it in there.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to find the part.
And if somebody else has it, they can pop in and say it.
Okay. Sharing personal information frequently produces this discovery. People from different backgrounds share many of the same hopes, worries, and feelings.
Yep.
Exercises and activities that help students see other people's perspectives can improve interethnic relations. That's where I'm at. Why? I lost where I was at. Oh my god, this is harder than I thought. Okay.
Its technology can expand the reach of classroom activities through such activities as video conferencing, social media, and online collaborations and tools. Is that where we were at?
Yes.
Yep. So the last one is online collaboration tools, like having Google Drive where we can all get into the same document. That's an example of a collaboration tool. Okay. Next bullet. Anybody want to do it? Or?
Is it individuals from, oh, hold on, development of tolerances for individuals from diverse ethnic groups, as in important aspects of multicultural education.
Yep.
Are we doing? Okay.
I don't know if you had the one before that. The children especially benefit if they learn early in their lives to show respect for individuals
Yeah.
from ethnic groups other than their own. That's a good one. Okay. And then there's one more in that section.
The Teaching Tolerance Project provides schools with resources and materials to improve intercultural understanding and relationships between white children and the children of color.
I'm coming back. I had to put the puppy away. Oh, the puppy in a box.
Too bad I couldn't put the babies in a box.
That's what I'm doing now, is trying to deal with my puppy.
I think with a baby, it's called a playpen, not a box.
Poor Stella.
Oh. All right, section 3, we're back to gender now. And so gender is a term that's used extensively throughout individuals' everyday lives, including schools and education. Exploring gender views. Gender refers to the characteristics of people as either males or females, and that should be a familiar term. Gender roles are sets of expectations that prescribe how females or males should think, act, or feel. So gender role. And then gender typing refers to the acquisition of a traditional masculine or feminine role. So just kind of thinking, you know, whether or not somebody, gender typing is just kind of looking at somebody and thinking whether or not they're kind of functioning as a female or they're functioning as a male. There are various ways to view gender development. Some views stress the influence of biological factors on the behaviors of males and females. Others emphasize social or cognitive factors. So social being how they function and work with people. You know, do they function more and act like a female, or do they act more like a male? And then cognitive here again, like usual, is about thinking, how they think about and function. Social views of gender especially highlight the various social contexts in which children develop, such as families, peers, school, and the media. In addition to biological and social factors, cognitive factors also contribute to children's gender development. Grab that in case it's one emergency. I'm not recognizing the number. I look at it, thought it would be one of the ones that are missing. I don't think. Oh, wait a minute. See, there's something from Dora. Dora's trying to get in, but she said she's got bad service, so. Okay.
I could just picture her trying to figure it out though.
I know.
Well, I talked to her, told her you just have to click on the link that's right there in the email. but if she's got bad service, especially when the weather's funky, it might not be working. Oh Lord. Let me quiet this down too. You're supposed to be quiet, Mr. Puppy. Stinker. What if you take a little nap? There. Yeah. Now you'll be bored and you'll go to sleep. Let's see if covering them up will work now. Usually it does. All right, so made it through which one? We talked about gender schema theory.
No.
We get to that point. We did that. Oh, that didn't work well. Okay, in addition to biological and social factors, cognitive factors also contribute to children's gender development, so the way they think. Gender schema theory, which is a name, currently the most widely accepted cognitive theory of gender, so this is a theory, states that gender typing emerges as children gradually develop gender schemas of what gender appropriate and gender inappropriate in their culture. So that particular theory, which they're saying is the most widely accepted one in regard to gender, states that a child's gender typing, what they think they are, emerges over time and does it within what's appropriate and what's considered inappropriate within their culture. So it doesn't necessarily say that's the only way to look at it or that's how it is. It's just one theory, like there's always multiple theories of different things, but that one is called gender schema theory. It's one way that someone describes how kids become or determine the gender they associate with. B, gender stereotyping, similarities and differences. Does somebody have this section done that would take it?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
Gender stereotypes are broad categories that reflect impressions and beliefs about what behavior is appropriate for females and males. Diverse behaviors can be assigned to each category, such as scoring a touchdown or growing facial hair for masculine. That's what I have. Is it more than just masculine?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Playing with dolls or wearing lipstick for feminine. Many aspects of students' lives can be examined to determine how similar or different girls and boys are. The brain, an area of the parietal lobe that functions in visual spatial skills, tends to be larger in males than in females. The area of brain involved in emotional expression tend to show more metabolic in females. Physical performance
activity. There should
go
be
ahead.
words. Metabolic activity in females. I don't know
Okay.
if that activity behind there or not.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Physical performance in general, boys outperform girls in athletic skills such as running, throwing, and jumping. The hormonal changes of puberty result in increased muscle mass for boys and increased body fat for girls.
Yeah, seriously?
Intelligence. No gender difference occurs in overall intellectual ability, but gender differences do appear in some cognitive areas, such as math and verbal skills. Math and science skills. A very large-scale study of more than 7 million U.S. students in grades 2 through 11 revealed no difference in math skills for boys and girls. In 2009, in the 2009 National Assessment of Educational Progress for high school graduates who earn credits in specific science courses, males had higher scores than females. Verbal skills. A major review of gender similarities and differences conducted in the 1970s concluded that girls have better verbal skills than boys do. Educational attainment. In regard to school achievement, girls earn better grades and complete high school at a higher rate than boys. Hold on, I lost my spot. Okay. Relationship skills. Researchers have found that girls are more people-oriented and boys are more think-oriented. Pro-social behavior. Girls view themselves as more pro-social and empathetic than boys do. Aggression. One of the most consistent gender differences is that boys are more physically aggressive than girls. Emotion and its regulation. The gender difference in positive emotions became more pronounced with age as girls more strongly express positive emotions than boys in middle and late childhood and adolescence.
There's somebody who has the gender controversy. Am I doing that?
I don't have it down, but I can read it.
Okay.
Evolutionary psychologists such as David Buss argue that gender differences are extensive and caused by the adaptive problem faced across revolutionary history. Alice Eagley
Mhm.
also concludes that gender differences are substantial but reaches a very different conclusion about their cause.
Okay. Going on, does somebody else have gender role classification, those items done?
I can try that too.
Okay.
Not very long ago, it was accepted that boys should grow up to be masculine and girls to be feminine. In the 1970s, however, as both females and males became dissatisfied with the burdens imposed by their stereotypic roles, alternatives to femininity and masculinity were proposed. Instead of describing masculinity and femininity as a continuum in which more of one means less of the other, it was proposed that individuals could have both masculine and feminine traits. This thinking led to the development of the concept of, I cannot say that,
Androgyny, and I'm not sure if I've got it completely right either. That's a crazy.
Yeah.
Androgyny. Janine is the end. Janine.
Androgyny. The presence of positive masculine and feminine characteristics in the same person.
And the last line.
Yeah.
The boy code tells that boys tells boys that they should show little if any emotion and should act tough.
I couldn't find that one.
Right. On gender in context.
It is beneficial to think of personality in terms of person, situation, interaction rather than personality traits alone. The stereotype is that females are better than males at helping, but the likelihood of engaging in helping behavior depends on the context. Females are more likely than males to volunteer their time to help children with personal problems and engage in caregiving behavior. However, in situations where males feel a sense of competence or those that involve danger, males are more likely to help. How dumb. In the United States, there is now more acceptance of similarities in males and females behavior, but in many other countries, roles have remained gender specific. Cultural and ethnic backgrounds also influence how boys and girls will be socialized in the United States.
Eliminating gender bias. Teachers interact more with boys than with girls at all levels of schooling. Something to keep in mind. Many school personnel are not aware of their gender bias attitudes. These attitudes are deeply entrenched in and supported by the general culture in schools. Increasing awareness of gender bias in schools is clearly an important strategy in reducing such bias. Schools have made considerable progress in reducing sexism and sex stereotyping in books and curriculum materials, largely in response to Title IX of the Educational Amendment Act of 1972, which states the schools must treat females and males equally. So knowing that amendment act would be a good one to kind of keep in mind. And it's important because what did that act do? Why is Title IX important?
It states that schools must treat females and males equally.
Yeah. And so like Title IX has come up a few times over history, especially around like the athletic groups and teams. And that, especially like even nowadays with girls being involved in football and wanting that to be able to do that, that would fall under Title IX. Going on, girls can encounter sexual harassment in many different forms, ranging from sexist remarks and covert physical contact like patting or brushing against bodies to blatant propositions and sexual assaults. Quid pro quo sexual harassment occurs when a school employee threatens to base an educational decision, such as a grade, on a student's submission to unwelcome sexual contact. And hostile environment sexual harassment occurs when students are subjected to unwelcome sexual contact or conduct that is so severe, persistent, or pervasive that it limits the student's ability to benefit from their education. Yikes. Hopefully you won't have too much experience running into that, but okay, so that was the chapter 5. And then I'm gonna try using, I haven't used them before, but in Zoom they have breakout rooms. And so I'm gonna try doing that, but I'll explain what you need to work on when you go. It's going to assign, I think, 3 breakout rooms, and then you'll randomly be assigned to one of them. So you'll be with somebody else from class. And what I want you to do is, if you haven't read the case, crack the case at the end of the chapter 5, these boys, read that together and then discuss the questions. And if you have read it and you may not remember it, if it's been a few days, then review it and then discuss the questions is ultimately what you need to do. But if you need time to read it so you can discuss the questions, then do that as well. And if you've looked at it and wrote out your answers, you can look at your answers while you have your discussion. And we'll see how long. I'm gonna maybe say 10 minutes just to see. And I think that I should be able to check into the rooms, but I don't think you guys can go between the rooms, but I can. But I might be with one of you too. So we'll try the breakout rooms and see how it works. Let's see. Okay, so into 3 rooms automatically. Let's see what happens. Okay. It looks like in room 1, Star and Victoria. Oh, I know. Okay, 1, 2. All right. No. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Oh, let's try this again. Breakout room. Okay, delete room. Yes. Or do I add somebody? Okay, I definitely don't know what I'm doing. Delete, yes. Okay, add a room. Assign Kiana and Stephanie. Okay. All right. Open all rooms. Okay, did you get an invite to join a room?
Yeah.
Okay, so Star and Victoria should be together, and Kana and Stephanie. Victoria, are you seeing yours? There we go. Okay.
Is he? Oh, we got Tammy watching us.
Aw,
Say hi.
what's your name, little pumpkin? Oh, which one is this?
This one is Stella.
Oh, it is Stella.
Yep. Sometimes she looks like a boy.
I thought with the dark shirt on it was.
We even got her ears pierced to.
Oh, yeah, I can see
But-
that now. Aw, how did that go over?
It was a good 30 seconds of her trying to cry, but
That
that was
was
fine.
hi. Hi, little pumpkin. All right, I'm eavesdropping.
Okay. We were just trying to.
Did you get it?
What'd you say?
Did you get it?
Nope, I didn't get to read anything all week. So, these boys.
It's not very long, so
Okay.
go take 2 minutes and read it.
All right, I'll read it real quick so I could.
Did you lose Kana?
Yeah, well, I couldn't hear her, and I think she was trying to figure it out. I just had her audio turned off, and then all of a sudden she went off.
Wait a minute. Let me go back to the breakout room. Okay. I think she came back. She needs to go to room 4. Okay. There we go. There she is.
Okay.
Okay. Have you guys read this case? Studied these boys?
Oh, I haven't.
I'm gonna read it. It's not very long, so you might as well just read it and then you can talk about it because it'll be fresh. in your memory.
Okay, I'm finally in. Sorry. I don't know what was going on.
It's okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we're doing these boys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
you
So
read
I have not read it. I usually just go over things like a week or two, but then I didn't do it. So I'm a bad noodle.
Oh, well, same here. So we could both read it right now.
Okay. Do you want to just do like parts that we can read together?
Um,
You just want to
sure.
read? I'll read it. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just read to us. Okay.
Okay.
Imagine that Larry is a 9-year-old boy in the 4th grade class in which you are a student teaching. You have heard him and a number of other students complaining about gender bias on the part of their teacher. Mrs. Jones, one day you overhear Larry being reprimanded by Mrs. Jones for an altercation he had with Annie, a female classmate. It isn't fair, Mrs. Jones, Larry says. Annie took my homework and ripped it, and I get in trouble for taking it back. Now, Larry admonishes Mrs. Jones, you know Annie would never do that. You go and apologize to her. I'll see you after school. Larry walks away with a very angry look on his face, uttering, the girls never get in trouble. It's always the boys. You have heard this from students of Mrs. Jones in the past, but never really believed it. Over the course of the next 3 weeks, you pay much closer attention to Mrs. Jones' behavior with a special sensitivity to gender bias. You notice that girls receive higher grades than boys do, except in math. Boys are required to stay in after school several times, girls not at all. When Mrs. Jones is on recess duty and there are altercations between boys and girls on the playground, the boys end up standing against the wall while the girls walk away smiling. In class, the girls are used as models of behaviors much more frequently than boys. Their work receives more praise as well. You examine what students have been reading over the course of the year. Their required reading thus far consists of Little House on the Prairie, Charlotte's Web, and Little Women. The only thing that you notice that appears to favor boys is that they receive more of Mrs. Jones' attention on further examination. However, you see that much more of the attention is disciplinary in nature. At one point, you overhear Mrs. Jones as she's walking down the hallway saying to a colleague, "These boys, I just don't know what I'm going to do with them." And so it says, what are the issues in the case? What do you think?
Is it too much to say just gender bias?
Yeah, I would say that's what it is. She's just very biased against the boys.
Yeah.
So based on oh, go ahead.
So would we need to like write down all the examples, because it basically gives us a list of it, or
Yeah,
do we just say gender bias?
I would just say gender bias at this point, just because she does favor the males or the females.
Okay.
Yeah. So based on the ideas and what's that, Hammy?
Might be some gender stereotyping, if we remember that word, because she's kind of saying, you know, expecting that they're boys, therefore they're going to be naughty and kind of bad. And then the girls, they're always right, you know. So she's kind of doing a bit of stereotyping too, that all the girls are good, all the boys are bad, you know.
Okay.
I think it'd be both of those things.
Okay. Okay, number 2 says, based on the ideas and information presented in your text to this point, discuss what you believe is believed to be happening in this classroom and the possible influences on Mrs. Jones' ideas of gender. Cite research and theories of gender development.
Okay.
Yeah.
It always scares me
That's a
whenever
lot.
it says like site research, and I'm like, oh crap.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, it talked about like the Banks theories, whatever. So, like we said, she is gender typing and gender stereotyping. So,
Mhm.
Marginalized first.
Would that be a good one, Tammy?
I didn't hear you. Only on.
I think we're on 3. What about the gender roles?
Two.
Or you mean on the
On these boys.
Gender development. Site research and theories of gender development. We was going to use being marginalized.
She's doing that to those boys. Like she's not giving them a chance. She's not including them. Those books that she has, like that they have been reading, it doesn't look very interesting to a boy, you know?
Exactly, yeah. Those are definite, and they aren't even really what all girls are going to like either, but they definitely are more girls than boy type books.
Mm-hmm. It's just the girls get away with everything, and the boys are just almost used to. They're used to it.
Third grade teacher was like that, and I think it was because she was older than the Hills, because I believe she had my mom when my mom went to school. My mom went to a country school, like 2-room country school, and she was a teacher there. So she was just older than the Hills, and we had art every day. And for the whole year, art meant we got to have a different seasonal picture to color with our crayons. Art is the picture we colored. And so, you know, Christmas time, she'd break out a Christmas coloring book and make copies.
Oh my gosh.
If you liked coloring pictures, you were in heaven. But other than that, you were out of luck because she was just this, well, she was retired within a few years after our class, but she was like very old and very, you know, set in her
Stuck
ways.
in her ways.
Yeah, stuck. Yeah, that's probably better than set. She was stuck. But I wouldn't worry so much about the research part on that question. I know they're asking it, but frankly, I don't know that there was enough research cited in this chapter for, you know, specifically that I feel like you'd be able to pull that out and find it. So don't worry about the site research. Probably just the theory. Is that one theory about?
And theories, yeah, of gender development.
Just say, what was that? Wasn't that one a theory that was we did have an that theory?
Jones or Jane or
Gender schema theory. It's under like Roman numeral 3 gender in our notes. I don't know if your notes got the same. I'm on page 5 of 8 on my notes, but it's under the Roman numeral heading 3 gender, page 165. And it's the last one before B, gender stereotyping.
gender schema theory.
Yeah. I don't know if it's that. There's just not. They threw in some theory things, but if they weren't in the notes, we tend not to emphasize the rest of the chapter. We kind of focus on what's in the notes. And if it's not in the notes, I'm not going to hold you to it. There's too much in these chapters. They're so heavy. So, no,
So-
just identify what you did, and that's good enough.
All right. So what influence do we believe Miss Jones's behavior will have on her students? Negative. Just because her boys are just gonna always act out if they know they're gonna get in trouble anyway.
Yeah. And they'll
And
try
the girls.
something against girls.
Yeah, and the girls are brats because they know they can't be touched.
Yep. So they're gonna do what they can and get away with everything. And who knows how serious it could be by the end of the year.
Yep.
She's already labeling them bad, even if they're not, and they'll just start acting out.
Mm-hmm.
Or what should Mrs. Jones do at this point?
Retire. Just kidding. I don't know. I feel like she could. She ends her thing with, "What more can I do?" Or she doesn't know. These boys, I just don't know where I'm going. I just don't know what I am going to do with them.
Yeah.
While she's talking to somebody, maybe they could give her the correct advice, you know, and kind of reflect. She could reflect on what she's doing, and then she could go from there. It might take somebody else to point out her flaws.
Yeah, and I agree with that too.
You guys all done?
Pretty much, yes.
So what did you answer for number 5? If you teacher classroom, what would you do?
I think we both said that we would make suggestions and point out the teacher's behavior and point out that, you know, it might cause problems with the different students.
And what about number 6? What will you do in your own classroom to minimize gender bias?
Like for me, I put down that I would take time to do like my own self-assessments and try to be as equal and fair as possible.
For me, I just kind of noted that in my own classroom setting right now, one thing that I try to do is treat everyone equally. So if we're going around and having to do questions and answering, then I have to like do boy, girl, and not just, you know, every student that's a girl or every student that's a male. And like depending on the class that I have, I've noticed like with certain students, they'll have the answers faster than others, but I try not to call on them and give everyone a chance. So that's kind of what I noted, that I would just give everyone a fair chance.
Yeah, and something else what you can do too is like record yourself when you're teaching too, and then analyze it and take some, you know, go through and do hash marks or things that, and you could look for a couple different ways of looking at how you interact with them during that time. Is it, what kind of answer did you accept from them? Like a yes, no, or whatever, or was it more of a deeper explanation type question? You know, you could be letting the girls get by with only answering things real, you know, simple and not pushing them or probing them for more information, where your boys, you might be asking them the tough questions where they got to explain a lot too. So you might want to try recording yourself and then kind of doing like a checklist of the students and analyze the kind of interaction you had with them during that time, just to see, and doing that a couple times, or during maybe different subject classes. Yeah, because sometimes we do things and we don't realize we're doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so go check on the other guys. I think they're close to done.
Well,
Whenever
yeah.
I'm dressed up as a girl, he
Yeah.
has boobs.
Oh my God.
Did you guys finish up?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. We were just talking about the gender, the transgender stuff, if they updated the rules around here, the laws.
Hold on a second. And breakout rooms, close out rooms. Okay.
We're missing Stephanie.
Hannah, why are you kitty wampus, or is it all?
What? Oh, Kiana.
Oh no, she's just big K, big K. Oh, look at the little puppy. Oh, snuggly puppy. He's being good. Yeah. All right, Star. So what were you guys talking about?
Well, we just wrapped it up when it talked about gender bias, and then we just went into the whole gender roles, the transgender stuff.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, if they updated
Where are they at with that? I haven't heard the news in a couple days. What did they? doing with that? Like the one law was about, wasn't it about not letting doctors be able to prescribe?
To like
medication?
to medically take stuff off or the hormone stuff.
Yeah.
I think they didn't allow it.
So that was the
I
thing,
think
right?
they stopped it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't. I don't even know.
That one seemed like it was in the negative. It was sort of like, what? If it got passed, it was going to be like a bad thing or
I
something.
just don't know if someone at that age could make such a life, like a big decision, you know, like. But I guess some people are born and they know. So
have you watched like Jazz? I Am Jazz on TLC.
But I think you told me about it before.
Yeah, and I mean she talked about like when she was, you know, like 5 years old or whatever, she already felt like she knew who she was, and she definitely felt she was a girl. So
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I just don't think it's like that's a decision that should be made, you know, out here. It should be made in the home, in the family, and that. It shouldn't be the rest of our business, you know.
Yeah.
Or we shouldn't put stuff in the way of it. And I guess that's my single opinion as an individual person. I'm not telling you what to think.
Yeah.
I just think, you know, we're very much a local control state, which means we don't want a lot of government and decisions made above us. We want the choice to make the decisions, you know, within a school, within our families, within our homes. And so I think it's interesting that that stuff is coming up, you know, in legislative session now and stuff. So.
Yeah. And Vicky said that there's a teacher at Littlewood who, I think, would you say the 3rd or 4th grade teacher, who I think is born a guy, but he doesn't identify as a male or female. And some days he dresses up like a girl, sometimes he dresses up like the boy. And so now like the students over there kind of like used to it. And it doesn't bother anyone or anything, but.
How long has he been there? Has she
Exactly, that's confusing. I don't even, and some people just are it.
Well, I mean, when people just, you know, like with Jazz, to me, I guess I would totally refer to her as a girl because that's what she's always, but when they alternate both male and female, then it's sort of like.
Well, I have a cousin and she refers to her daughter who was, I don't know, this is so confusing, but she's a girl, but the mother refers to her as they. And the baby, she's like 2 years old, but they dress her like a girl. She's very much a girl, but they refer to her as they.
Why that?
I think to like have that gender freedom, to let her choose her own gender whenever the time comes for her to make that decision.
Okay.
But that's so confusing to me. I'm just like, hello, you're a boy or your girl they could tell you I feel like I'm a girl, I feel like I'm a boy. Like that's how I feel.
That's what I feel. Yeah. Like I'm all for like boys dressing up in girls' clothes, you know, like all that stuff. But like this whole like calling my niece a they like confuses me. Like I don't know. And I feel disrespectful when I say she, but I don't know.
Like my sister changed her legal name not too long after, you know, so she was, I don't know, 24, 25 for whatever reason. And I still call her by the name that I grew up with. But like if I mail her a card or anything, I've got to use her new legal name. And it's like, it's so hard for me to call her that because that's not her name, you know. And 20 years of calling her by, you know, calling her Kim, and then she changes her name. So, you know, and that's not even a gender change. It's just a simple name change, and I can't get it figured out.
Is her like new name similar to her old name or?
No, Shali. Well, whatever. It's not my, it's not my thing.
Hmm.
What
That's
about-
cool though that she lets you like refer to her as her original name though.
Yeah, she hasn't gotten too mad at me yet. We'll see. What about you, Stephanie? Have you run into anything, or do you have any feelings about those things that are up in the legislature?
Yeah, like I hear about it and stuff, and I really believe that, we all are given like choices and everything. And we live in a place where we are given those choices. And I respect everyone and whatever choice they make, it doesn't directly affect my life. I find them all really interesting because I don't personally have anyone in my life that deals with any of that. So it's always good to hear about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Victoria, how about you? That's a teacher in your school?
Yeah. I mean, I don't have anything against that either, but I've never met someone who refers to themselves as a female and a male. Okay, so like at first I didn't know if it was a male or a female. I didn't know which one, and I never wanted to ask.
Yeah.
But my niece, that's her teacher, and she said her teacher tells the class that he is not a boy and he is not a girl. And some days he comes dressed up as a boy, and he's really just like a boy. Then some days he comes dressed up as a girl, and like it looks like he has boobs, and it really looks like a girl. So
So
I
then
don't know.
call
It's
him.
really crazy. I know he was trying to create some kind of like gender bias thing with the school, so students would come out and be comfortable coming out. But I haven't heard anything else on that.
And then that's confusing too, like using the bathroom if he wants to go by both, like especially in a school or something. Like I don't know. Then I feel like if you're a guy wanting to be a girl, then just be a girl and don't, be all about it. Just live your life as a girl. Don't bring attention.
It'd be confusing to have to be uncertain. I mean, if they're doing what they're wanting to do and they're comfortable and they're content, then cool. It's just that you add that whole dimension to being a teenager and trying to figure out who you are. Wow. But they're confused trying to figure out things. But that's something to consider. I think that whole idea of transgender and the LGBTQ whole thing, it certainly can start happening in middle school. And so it's entirely possible you might be running into it depending on the grade you're in, or, within your school. They may not be your student, but they might be a student in your school. So it's good to think about that and have thought about it and be clear on how you feel about things, how you might handle it.
I know this might be too late to share this, but I have a first grader at Wolf Creek, and she's a girl, and she wants to go by a girl, like she wants to be known as a girl, but she looks very much like a boy, and that's because of her own choice. But like she won't use the girls' bathroom because she's afraid to, and she obviously doesn't want to use the boys' bathroom because she's a girl. But she just doesn't like being made fun of for looking like a boy, so she uses the staff bathroom. And she's in first grade.
Wow. That's coming from parents and stuff, or do you think that's coming from the student? They really are feeling that way, or do you think there's more influence from the family?
Can you say that again?
I don't know. I feel like I know her dad, and I know that he calls her by she, and her sister. I don't know what it is. I think the teacher kind of really confused her and her classmates at the beginning of the year because she was really confusing to the other people, like the other staff. She was like, oh, she was born a male, but she wants to be known as a girl, but she looks like a male. And after I got down to it, I was like, oh, I know her dad, and I know that this kid is a girl. And so I think it was more of the teacher confused her and confused the students. So I don't know.
Well, just
Have you ever heard of someone who has both genital parts?
Like a hermaphrodite?
I've heard
Is
of
that what
those
it's
people,
called?
but
Hermaphrodite?
yeah.
I actually worked with a student who was like that, and I had no idea that this student was like that. But he never took off his sweater, and it was because he was growing the boobs. But he looks more like a boy. He never took off his sweater, but he never used the bathroom, like at all. Like whenever before lunch and everyone would leave, then he would use the bath. Would go and use the bathroom, and because then I was his one-on-one, and he couldn't see. Like I had to go and they had the girls' bathroom and the boys' bathroom. So I never knew which one he would go into. So I always wondered if he went into the girls' bathroom to use the restroom. But that's crazy. I don't know what's happening.
Oh wow. And like the parents, did they communicate that with you, or?
They didn't tell the school until he was always gone. Like he'd be gone for like 2 weeks, like out of the month. And they finally pulled him in and asked him about it, and they finally came out and told that he was born with both genital parts, and that every month he had to go to Denver to get the hormonal shots or get something with his hormones, because something had to do with his hormones.
Oh wow! But
why he never took off his sweater is because he is growing boobs.
But he chose his gender like as a male. That's like really interesting.
Yeah, but he's totally. If you see him, he's totally a boy. I mean, he looks like a boy.
Wow.
Yeah, that was really crazy. I couldn't believe that. But that is kind of interesting. After like him never wanting to use the bathroom like during school, or he would have to wait till everyone was out of the building, and then he would finally.
So would he menstruate?
Would he what?
Like get a period?
No.
you have been old enough yet too.
I never asked that.
That must be horrible. Because just being a small teenager, you're all up and down and trying to fit in and everything else, and to be that much different. I feel sorry for them. Okay. All right. Well, today also you had your paper due, and
Sorry, I can't hear you.
We don't submit it on this week, right? We submit it on a different week. Like we go back and submit it on 2 weeks ago. Because last time I was on Moodle, which was like an hour ago, I didn't see a submit thing for it.
It's on week 4.
Okay.
These were the assignment Lakota perspective paper.
Tammy, you're getting real choppy, but I don't know if it's my service here, but everybody's freezing up.
I hear it too, though.
So yeah, if you go back to week 4, there's a link there, and then at the bottom there's a submit button. So you can put that in, and then you also have your quiz for chapter, and it's just chapter 5. So your notes and things should help you with the quiz.
Okay.
Let's see, what else did I have on the agenda? Okay, still submit your crack the case that you guys talked about put in your open notes. And then we are going to chapter 7 next week. So, and I think I've got, let me see. Back here once. Yeah, I have chapters, our week 7 open. So if you want to do the chapter 7 open notes, you can get to them now.
Okay.
Just, I just got to fix the names up here, but other than that, it should be okay as they are. So, and crack the case to be right as well. So you can work on chapter 7 if you're wanting to work on it when you read it.
I'm on the chapter 5 open notes thing, and it says that the assignment is overdue, and it's not letting me like submit at all.
Give me a second while I go name and sequence. See? Try reloading your page and then try again.
Okay. Okay,
And
yep, there's a submission thing there.
I'm still having problems with the submitting my chapter 4 notes. I know. Can I just email it to you? I mean, my crack the case one.
Oh, crack the case. I didn't switch crack the case. I just did the open one.
Okay. You do it for the chapter 4 crack the case.
Fixing it right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Try reloading your page and then doing that. Should work. Okay. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, Star, so we get to see all the babies or just one baby? Star, do we get to see more than one baby?
Oh yeah, Charlie, bring the twins over. They want to see all of the. Dad, go grab the other one.
And they're 2 months apart? Is that the
A
difference?
month.
A month.
They're born May 6th, and then she's born June 8th. Yeah. Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Oh, she conked. Made them conk heads. Oh, hold on. They're coming.
Hi. Oh, they are. Oh.
Kodiak. See, these two look like twins.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
No?
Now, is this your son too, Star? Is this your son?
Yep, right here. This is Rylan.
Okay.
He
And-
just got in from outside, so he's like a snowman.
Oh.
He's 11.
Oh, okay. How do you like that baby sister?
And this is my biggest baby. Just kidding.
You're
What'd
gonna
you say?
you're gonna get a timeout when you get off the call.
I know.
All right. Well, we'll call it good enough. You guys still have a quiz to take, so you can do that now or whenever you want to. Chapter 7 next week. Okay.
Okay.
Great.
All right. Thanks
All
for
right.
coming tonight, you guys. Take care.
All right, see ya.
So,